So if you look at the report, the data by NAFE committee, by Thorat committee, by Rajiv Bhatt committee, these are the committees that is established by JNU itself. These are not the external committees, the committees that was established from outside. It was established by JNU itself. And the data, the Thorat committee, NAFE committee and Rajiv Bhatt committee, they explicitly say there is a viva voce discrimination happening in JNU, not in the 220 and 221 batch. This committee is established much before. This discrimination has been happening, not also in the present Modi Saha BJP government. It was also present when the Congress government was there, when the left faculties were there in the universities.
Hello friends, my name is Abhay Kumar and today we are going to discuss a very important issue in JNU. Recently, the result of 2021 PhD entrance examination is out, and students and candidates from marginalized communities, Dalits, Adivasi, backward castes, religious minorities, Muslims, they have alleged that during the interview, because of their identity, they were marginalized and they were given 1, 2, 3 marks, and they were deliberately given low marks so that they could not qualify in the examinations. If they were given marks as per their performance, the students from the marginalized community would have got admission in large number in JNU. Students are protesting, administration is not responding to their queries, and several demonstrations have happened. With me is Sneha Ashish Das from Sociology JNU. He is doing PhD and he is about to gather at administrative block in JNU where his friends and comrades are meeting, and they are going to decide the next course of the action. I just requested him to share his thought with us on what are the issues. Sneha Ashish Das, thank you very much for talking.
Yeah, thank you.
So the first question is, not many people know it, that students from marginalized students who applied here have been discriminated. Generally, the impression is being created that all seats are being fulfilled and reservations has been implemented. So how far the positions of administration is correct?
Reservation has fulfilled or not, that will analyze the data. If you see the data, the SC, ST and OBC students cutoff has come down to, it's lesser than the EWS cutoff. That indicates something. That indicates the first question, that how is the cutoff decided? Is it decided based on seat, or is it decided with some other arithmetic, or is it decided arbitrarily? If EWS cutoff is lesser than SC, ST, OBC, and even in cases that we are trying to analyze, if in the cases of PWD student, if there are some indications that the cutoff is lower, then we must question that where our reservation policy is leading into. Because reservation was given to socially and educationally backward classes and communities and caste. Caste played a major factor in there. But at the same time, people from the upper caste, the oppressor caste, now getting EWS reservation and having cutoff lesser than the SC, ST, OBC. The first question is reservation properly followed and fulfilled? That's the first question. But the another question is, the SC, ST, OBC students are coming, that seats are getting fulfilled. So that is the defense given by the administration and also by some teachers to us. But the question is not, if there are 2 seats of SC community of SC category or 3 seats of OBC category, 2 and 3 people are coming. The question is, how many SC, ST, OBC people are coming also in UR category? Note the first thing we have to understand, that UR is not a category that is for upper caste. UR is a open category. It's a general category. It's an unreserved category. In an unreserved category, even the reserved communities who have reservation, they can fight and come in. So when the marks are given less based on caste, communities, religion, and other factors, then some people, like I know, my friends have come to university, this JNU, even with 2 marks in Viva. My friends have given 2 marks, 4 marks, yet their number in the written test was high, and that's how they have come. So the calculation by the teacher, by the administration is very sharp. The calculation is to give enough mark to fulfill the reserved seat and not let the students of SC/ST OBC communities who have really scored well in the written examination come and fight in the UR category, in the unreserved category.
Raised a very important question that unreserved category, UR or general category, is not exclusively meant for few upper caste. It is open category where anybody, upper caste, Dalit, Adivasi, backwards, they can compete and they can take seats. But why UR is considered or deemed as seats earmarked for the upper caste people? As far as data is concerned, number is concerned, they are not more than 10 to 15%. But why 50% of the seats are exclusively reserved for them, and any attempt of lower caste, Dalit, Adivasi competing and entering that domain has been stopped deliberately by Dronacharya at university. So why BAPSA, your organizations and other progressive or social justice organizations are not taking up this issue seriously?
So if you look at the report, the data by NAFE committee, by Thorat committee, by Rajiv Bhatt committee, these are the committees that is established by JNU itself. These are not the external committees, the committees that was established from outside. It was established by JNU itself. And the data, the Thorat committee, NAFE committee and Rajiv Bhatt committee, they explicitly say there is a viva voce discrimination happening in JNU, not in the 220 and 221 batch. This committee is established much before. This discrimination has been happening, not also in the present Modi Saha BJP government. It was also present when the Congress government was there, when the left faculties were there in the universities. So the first question is why you are considered as a general category. After SC/ST reservation was implemented, and OBC after the fight for OBC reservation, during OBC reservation, lot of upper caste community who came to the street to say that reservation is unjust. During the OBC reservation Mandal agitation, even you see lot of famous progressive film directors, film stars and academicians who still proudly say that reservation is wrong. In JNU, progressive professors like Bipin Chandra from CHS, who signed a letter to the Vice Chancellor against the EC meeting decision that there should be reservation above the assistant professor faculty appointment. So there is a consensus between the professors, between the state, between the upper caste community that there should not be reservation to the Bahujan students. So when the Bahujan students and the teachers are fighting for the reservation and getting reservation, they are creating a consensus, another counter narrative that general means them, general means upper caste, general means unreserved. That means the reservation that SC/ST OBC people are getting is 50%, is 49% to be specific, and the other 50% goes to the upper caste, when their number is as maximum it can be 10%. In universities, there were higher number always, but currently also when the Bahujan students not just came in the reserve category, but also in the UR category, there is a deliberate trying of not letting them into the general or the unreserved category. As the NAFE committee, Thorat committee, Bhatt committee report says, there is a viva voce and written test में जो gap है, in that gap there is a huge gap, and that huge gap is only and majorly there between the SC, ST, OBC and PWD communities. So why BAPSA is not doing anything? So going back to the history, when BAPSA had done something, the whole campus was silent. And currently also BAPSA doing as much possible as much possible. How? Because we have called for an all organization meeting. In all organization meeting, we discuss the future course of action. We are releasing a statement. We have released the previous statements. We have released the testimonies. We are campaigning. Now in every wall of JNU, you will see a poster about the NAFE committee, what committee, Third committee recommendation by BAPSA. We have released online posters. We have called for protest in JNU. This is the current scenario. But in 2016, when BAPSA activists blockaded the R block with the suggestion of JNU TA, the JNUSU, all the left students, they called for a hunger strike in front of R block. When we blocked the R block, they conducted a hunger strike. So during the blockade, there was an AC meeting also going on. In the AC meeting, students were not represented, and students were willing to hear that what the academic council is deciding. And BAPSA students, they called the JNUSU back then, who was led by Mohit Pandey and Satrupa Chakraborty from ISA. And they didn't dare to enter into AC meeting. And BAPSA activists with several OBC forum and other social justice groups, activists, who entered into the AC meeting to know what is actually happening, what decisions are being made, they were suspended. And some of the students were rusticated in 2017 October, and some of students were rusticated in 2016 December. There is a total attempt from BAPSA to reject UGC gadget, which is responsible for seat cut, which brought 100% Viva votes, and we rejected the 100% Viva votes and demanded for 10% of Viva votes. And then the Supreme Court gave us a token, insisted the 30% Viva votes. So in that way, BAPSA has always struggled when the whole JNU progressive students have failed and betrayed us. And in that way, I can also say that in 2018 also, there was a larger fight for reservation happening in JNU. When other communities were also silent, other groups were also silent, and BAPSA led the protest.
Friends, I should add some information here that Sneha Ashish Das is a prominent face, prominent leader of BAPSA, which is an Ambedkarite student organization on the campus. And in 2017, students, activists of BAPSA and other students belonging to different left and social justice organizations, they were protesting at academic council meeting, and they were demanding that a NAFE committee report should be implemented. Professor Abdul Nafe was the professor of JNU, and he was appointed to submit a report by the JNU administration itself and to look into the issues of discriminations against marginalized communities in Viva voce. And his recommendation was that weightage in Viva, which is around 30 marks, should be reduced to 15. And Thorat committee report, which also studied 2013 data, has also argued and also recommended that discriminations could be mitigated by reducing the weightage of 30 to 15 in Viva. But JNU administration accepted the UGC Gazette, which says that Viva weightage should not be decreased, but it should be increased to 100. And against that, the students and activists of the BAPSA and other organizations, they protested and they were suspended. That episode is still alive, and its relevance is more today when marginalized communities are being discriminated. So I will take 2-3 questions together, and you can give your answer. You are going to give a memorandum to JNU Teachers Association, and you are also planning to give memorandum to deans and chairpersons of schools, and you are asking them to spell their opinion. What do you think about discrimination, and what are the methods being followed to give marks? What is the basis that you give one candidate 27, 28 marks and you give another candidate 1 marks and 2 marks? But when you see the performance in written examination, you will be surprised that those who are getting 1 or 2 marks, that may be equivalent to 5% or 10%, is getting something around 60 to 70% in the written examination. So there is a mismatch. In written examination, students from deprived background, they get more marks, but in Viva, they get very less marks. If somebody is not meritorious, just assume, if candidate from ST, SC, OBC candidate, OBC community is not meritorious, they should have got less marks in, in written as well. But in written, they are getting good marks, but in Viva, they are deliberately thrown out from the university. So, again, to repeat my questions, first is giving memorandum to Teachers Association, chairpersons and deans, and BAPSA since 2017 has been very vocal, and it has been at the forefront to oppose UGC Gazette. So these 2-3 issues are very structural and very fundamental. How far you are getting support from left organization and progressive organizations, because we easily dismiss right-wing organization, and we sometimes think that progressive forces means that they will always stand with the marginalized community. So you take 2-3 questions together and give your view.
So if you see Thorat committee recommendation, Thorat committee has particularly asked there should be a external in every Bhaiva Bose interview, and there should be a representative from marginalized community from reserve category in the Bhaiva Bose interview. Another thing Thorat committee has asked, which is very necessary, that one should decide the parameter of interview, the compartmentalize the interview. Ki there should be 5 marks, supposedly there should be 5 marks for proposal, there should be 5 marks for your knowledge in MA, there should be 5 marks for some other. So you have to compartmentalize mark, and our demand has always been that should be recorded. When it will be recorded, we'll see if a student has submitted a proposal that has introduction, literature review, methodology, and research questions, or whatever whatever the center requests, then the 5 marks should be ensured. If you see when someone is coming for a PhD interview, they always come with a proposal. It is impossible to give 1 or 2 mark if there is a 5 teachers panel. If one teacher gives 1 mark, then 5 teachers give 5 marks, right? I'm not saying though even 1 mark is given when 4 teachers have given 0 and 1 teacher is given 1. And none of them is good, none of them is progressive. And I'm not denying that there can be a distance between the written test and the Viva Voce. There can be a distance. There can be possible cases. But if you see a pattern, that distance is majorly there in higher percentage between the SC, ST, OBC and PWD categories, the communities. So that raises a question, isn't that distance deliberate? And that happens in very particular center. This year, we have received so many cases of the same, of SC, ST, OBC student and Muslim students getting discriminated. A lot of testimonies that a Muslim student, when she talked about her faith, the Mahapatra, who is also in SIS, chairperson of one center in SIS, asked the woman to log off, not take interview. The administration is telling us that they don't give the category to the interview panel, but you carry your caste with you. When you say, my name is this, when I say my name is Snehasis Das, they know what my caste is and category is. When I say this person's name is that, with the surname, they know what a caste and category it is. So this is not how you can put someone accountable. This is not how you can have your defense. With many questions I have raised about the parameters, no center has a parameter. SU as a university has a parameter. If you are following other universities on something, on UGs on something, why you haven't yet set a parameter? And about teachers, giving memorandum to teachers, I doubt that there will be only RSS or ABP's professor, sympathizing professors in the panel. There would be late professors also who got recruited during the left regime in JNU, and they have also given humiliatory marks. When the NAFE committee recommendation came, it was sent to every center to send back their responses, their replies, and many centers have rejected that we won't reduce the Viva Voce. That means it also comes down in the hand of teacher, not just of the administration. So teachers shall also be held accountable. We demand that there should be not just transparency of how many marks given to which student, transparency of which teacher has given how many marks to how many students and on what basis. So that we will know which teacher is discriminatory. Not that who is the student got discriminated, but which teacher is discriminating. That is also a necessary question. The progressive teachers who have given such humiliating, undignified marks, I won't say this is less or high mark. I will say this is humiliating and undignified mark. Because it is just saying you that however you study good, you bring a proposal, you defend your proposal, but because of a caste, because of religion, because of gender, we'll give you one or two, we'll tell you that you are not worth it. You are not worthy to come to JNU. This is what the teachers are doing. So we are giving this memorandum not just to the administration, but to teachers association, to chairperson, to the school dean.
Sneha, when you say that left professors and progressive professors, they also deliberately give less marks to students belonging to SC, ST, OBC, minorities community. So is it not that you are making a big statement? Because when I bring such a statement to my professors who are also left and progressive, they argue sometimes that such narrative is basically deliberately being floated to weaken the left and strengthen the right. In other words, they believe that when we question the progressive teachers on the issue of caste, they believe that we are deliberately playing in the hands of the right-wing forces.
In 2016 and 17, when BAPSA and other organizations were protesting for the same issue against UGC gadget, lot of late professors came to the front to say that we also have students from Dalit communities, from OBC community, ST community. They counted, I have 4 students, 5 students, 16 students. At the same time, they opposed reservation in the faculty appointment and also deprivation point. In 2019, BAPSA councillor Sanjay Kumar, who protested in this school I am sitting in, School of Arts and Aesthetics, that there is a case of discrimination in Viva Voce that has been happening in this center. And there is nepotism, casteism happening. Lot of teachers came together saying, no, we are progressive, we don't do that, that's a wrong narrative, and we have all these Dalit, all these students. But if you see the history of arts and aesthetics, they only take the Dalit students who come from SFI and DSA background. Let me be very clear, SFI and DSA background, none other. They only take their own student. Let me ask you first question, relating to the not found suitable, that thing came up recently. When you ask proposal for the PhD Viva Voce, now MPhil is scrapped. Lot of students from MA is applying for PhD. When you ask for a proposal, have you given any training of research methodology in MA? Have you given any training to the student how to write a proposal? You won't give any training to the students how to write a proposal. Then when they come with a proposal and you reject them, giving them less marks, saying you are not worthy, and they don't get selected in such universities, and with lot of struggle when they do come to university, when they go for faculty appointment, teachers appointment, they are called as not found suitable. In 2007, a PWD student, a person with disability, filed a court case against the not found suitable. And surprisingly, he won the case. That not found suitable is not justified. Why? Because you can say that mark is high or less. You cannot say this person is not found suitable. Why? Because this person has completed all the requirements to become a faculty, to become an assistant professor. When a person has completed all the requirements and applying and sitting in the interview, that means he's suitable. That means he or she or they are suitable. They are not found suitable. They can be high marked or low marked. And as you asked, am I making a big statement that late faculties are discriminating? Yes, I'm making a big statement. Am I making a big allegation? So let's take it as an allegation. But what is the truth value in this allegation? That the faculties will prove me. That I won't prove. If you think that you are not discriminatory, so what is the difficulty on your side from publishing how many marks you have given to how many students? From recording the Viva Voce and publishing it. You publish, make it available in the public domain. How many marks you have given to who students? Then the students will decide, then the campus will decide, then all the faculty and you will also decide that if you are discriminatory or not. That I won't decide.
So I will take the last questions, but it will take three questions together. The first is that what is the state of your struggle? How far it has made progress? The second is that how far the administration is cooperating with you. Related to this is also the point that are you also considering knocking at the door of the court? Court has also given some progressive judgment also, and I was just doing some research. And in one story, in one newspaper story, I found that in 1980 verdict, the 5-judge constitutional bench, Ajay Hasia versus Khalid Majid Sehrawardi, has said that Viva Voce marks should be brought from 30 to 15. Then we already have Abdul Nafi committee from the JNU, Thorat committee. So we have got ample evidence to prove our case. So what is the way out? Those people who believe in social justice, your masses, those who are listening to your voice or those who are concerned about students from the marginalized community being discriminated in JNU, if they are outside of JNU, let's say in Delhi, in Hyderabad, in Calcutta, or maybe outside India also, if they want to show some solidarity, what is your message for them as well?
So as you asked in the last question, is there any support from the right-wing groups? Absolutely, there won't be. Right-wing groups wants the Bahujan student not to come into universities. There can be definitely support of the people who actually believe in left ideology, in social justice ideology, but absolutely not from RSS, ABVP or right-wing groups. But what is the political update? We are trying to campaign as much possible, but at the same time we have been sitting at the Director of Admissions office and at the Deputy Registrar of Admissions office from last 3 days, and they have been giving us a lot of promises. They have currently made all the data, like the individual marks in the written test and the Viva Voce, available in their own portal. People can log in their own portal and can check their marks, and they have also promised us they will open a grievance redressal email ID as soon as possible, which the date was already gone. Like they promised they would have opened in yesterday 12 o'clock, but that date has gone. We are now again going to the Deputy Registrar of Admission and Director of Admission to inquire what happened to your promise. So there would be definitely a grievance redressal mechanism that you send your testimonies and you send what kind of discrimination happened, you send your scorecard, and that will be redressed. At the same time, when it is a question of SC/ST OBC student, the campus is not as sensitized, as sensitive. Because when it was a question of money, in the fee hike movement, lot of students came in. But right now, campus is still silent. Campus is still silent because a lot of students do not want that they will lose the fight against SC/ST OBC, and they will lose their seat in upcoming PhD admissions. Because in that way, if the system goes on, lot of students who have their casteist nepotism with the teachers, they will get in. So they don't want to come out as they came out in the fee hike movement. But at the same time, update is we are trying to campaign as much as possible. We have gone to administration. As soon as possible, we will also go against the UGC gadget, against the CUCT that has been declared that there will be all university CUCT exam, against NTA, because the NTA is something also which has not been transparent and which has delayed in the mark release, and after NTA came, a lot of other issues came up. We'll lead this battle to into a long battle. That's a promise from BAPSA and other students in JNU. At the same time, about legal battle, there has been a court case going on since the last time we fought the battle. The court case is still on. And when last time we fought the battle, on the day of court judgment, they reduced from 100% to 30%, while we are demanding for 10 to 15%. So that's how the battle kind of paused in between. But there were other battles came in. But right now, we'll definitely approach to the court, because approaching court is essential. But at the same time, approach to the court cannot leave out the political battle, will lead and sensitize the campus. Because you will probably win a court judgment, but you cannot win these casteist minds. To win the casteist minds, you have to sensitize them. You have to bring the students to political battle. You have to protest. You have to make a counter narrative, and you have to make people understand. So that's our battle yet. Message: the students of Central University of Hyderabad, the Ambedkar students, are also protesting on similar issues against administration. And the CUCT is going to affect all of us. When the autonomy of university is going to end, not in the case of teachers' appointment probably, but in the case of students' enrollment. And after UGC gadget also, there is a capping on how many teachers can take how many research scholars. That has resulted into seat cut and resulted into a lot of Bahujan students coming into universities. So whoever are in other universities, I think this is the time for a unified battle. Unified battle not just in JNU, but against UGC gadget, against NTA, against UCT, against NET being the basis of admission in future coming days, and also against implementing reservation, not just in public universities, but also in private universities, because that has the maximum enrollment as Dawa Sarpa in a meeting told yesterday and clarified it. So I think we have to fight against the commercialization of education, privatization of education, at the same time the dilution of reservation and other policies.
Friends, when the name of JNU comes to your mind, the general perception is created by media that it is an institution for anti-nationals, and those who disagree with that, they say no, it is an institution of national. So the debate is between national and anti-national. Beyond that debate, national and anti-national, here is Sneha Das from BAPSA, Ambedkarite Students Organization of JNU, who is saying that there is also a caste nature of the JNU where right-wing professors are deliberately, openly discriminating students from the marginalized community, but progressive section is also not progressive enough to stand with the rights of the marginalized community. And he has promised, Sneha Das has promised from the BAPSA, that for the protection of the rights of the marginalized community, his organization and other organization of the JNU is going to wage a long battle, and all friends who believe in the idea of social justice and Ambedkarite thought and left ideology must and should stand in solidarity with JNU and with students of JNU. So thank you very much, Ashish, for talking to me, talking to our friends. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Abhay bhai.
Thank you.
Kindly like, share and subscribe our YouTube channel.